Hello, my more than 200 subscribers. Today I'm not talking about the main and most debated and most disputed points of Marxist philosophy: the proletariat, the class struggle, revolution, communism, the last of which two ideas were not originally Marxist, but he developed them further. I'm going to talk about his early philosophical, political, journalistic writings. While reading about them, I had a thought: if the young Karl Marx was alive today and on YouTube, his channel would have been one of the most sought after channels by members of our community who are freethinkers, humanists, naturalists, atheists. It's not that he had our thinking, but we have his thinking. And don't forget, he lived in the middle of the 19th century. The modern ideas of today have a great but unacknowledged influence from the philosophy of Karl Marx. As I have mentioned in a previous video, he was a child of Jewish parents with a strong rabbinical tradition on both sides, but his father, a well-to-do lawyer, adopted Protestantism, a necessary condition under the Prussian government to fit in the professional and cultural life. And the young Karl was brought up in a liberal democratic tradition. In 1841, after having completed his studies in the university and having moved to Bonn and not being allowed to teach in universities by the reactionary Prussian government, he turned to journalistics. He had to make money some way. He started writing about young Hegelian journals, and the first article he wrote was about the press law, censorship law passed by the Prussian government. And the issue where he published his article was confiscated, but later he managed to publish more articles about this question in another journal, the Rheinische Zeitung, of which later he became an editor. During that time also he devoted his attention to economic questions, to the standard of living of the deprived classes, and he stood up for the oppressed peasantry. Karl Marx was a humanist, freethinker, naturalist, atheist. He was also a critic, a debater in a written form, an original philosopher and historian. And I hope to illustrate these characteristics in this and following videos. So, about Karl Marx as a freethinker and a humanist, and his views on the state and intellectual freedom. He made sharp attacks on the censorship law, and also he expressed his views on the nature of law, the state, and the intellectual freedom. As he said, "You don't expect a rose to smell like a violet. Why then should the human spirit, the richest thing we have, exist only in a single form?" About the censorship law, he noted its vagueness and ambiguity, and said that this gives arbitrary power in the hands of officials, and it does not express the freedom of all members of of the state. This is a quotation of his from that time about the censorship of the press. The freedom of the press has quite a different basis from censorship, for it is the form of an idea, namely freedom, and is an actual good. Censorship is a form of servitude, the weapon of a worldview based on appearances, against one based on the nature of things. Censorship is something purely negative. Freedom lies so deeply in human nature that even the opponents of freedom help to bring it about by combating its reality. The essence of a free press is the rational essence of freedom in its fullest character. A censored press is a thing without a backbone, a vampire of slavery, a civilized monstrosity, a scented freak of nature. Is there any further need to prove that freedom is in accordance with the essence of the press and that censorship is contrary to it? And then he continues, censorship, like slavery, can never be rightful, even though it existed 1,000 times in the forms of laws. And he said that a press law is a true law only when it protects the freedom of speech, which is the embodiment of civilization, the individual's link to the government. It's a mirror of the people. And if that freedom is suppressed, then the government hears only its own voice. As he said, for is it not a denial of one person's freedom to demand that he should be free after the manner of another? The written word is not an end, a means to an end, it is an end in itself. He also expresses views about the true nature of the state. He makes a distinction between a true state, real state, and law and authorities, institutions which are maintained only by police methods. This distinction belongs to the Hegelian tradition. Hegel, though, viewed the state as something abstract, something independent of the empirical individuals in the state. And he thought that the state takes care of the people, of the common good. And for him, the common good also was an abstract form, an abstract thing that is independent of the people. Marx denied that. He said that the state is a form of existence of the individuals. He also denied that the state can place restrictions on the individuals for the overriding interests of the state itself. As I said, during that time, Marx also, being an editor of Rheinische Zeitung, had to make editorial comments and analysis, to make an analysis of the debates in the Landtag, that is the provincial assembly, on passing a law concerning the gathering of timber by peasants in the forests. And this law was a revocation of the customary tradition which allowed peasants to gather brushwood in the forests without payment. Marx stood up for the peasants from a philanthropic point of view, but he also said that this law, by this law, the Landtag degrades the authority of the state, making it an instrument for the interests of one clique only, the landowners. In the following video, I will look at the subject of Karl Marx as a naturalist and an atheist. Bye.